The world is full of creative people, and some of them release that creativity in the world of architecture. The result? Some pretty far out and impressive abodes for people who aren't afraid to stand out from the crowd. From a tall tower on a tiny lot to a gas station converted into a family tubular glass house. Most children will be familiar with the concept of a treehouse, if not by experience, then through the magic of storybooks. But what if the roles were reversed? As in, the tree was in the house, not the other way around. It might seem a little crazy, but that is exactly what Kazakh architect Aybek Almasov aimed to do with his concept of a tubular glass house. Instead of putting the house into the tree, Aybek wanted to incorporate a mature fir tree through the heart of the home. His idea was to offer an escape from city life while incorporating modern-day convenience and style. It would be entirely glazed with a cylindrical structure and would provide 360-degree views of a forest setting. 4 narrow ring-shaped doors would form the foundation of the glass house, along with a white spiral staircase that wrapped around the tree's trunk. The architect believed that each level would represent purification and spiritual enlightenment while harmonizing with the environment. There's a saying about those in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, but we now believe that's because it would end up with an Treehouse Master. Treehouses are for children. We play in them when we're young, and then one day we just never step foot in them again. Why does it have to be that way? Why can't we continue living that innocent childhood dream? Pete Nelson was determined to keep that nostalgia and whimsy alive and set about using his carpentry qualifications to do it. Treehouses for adults? Not a problem. But this time, there would be no girls allowed sign written in crayon on the door. Pete builds tree houses for adults across the United States and has produced over 11 seasons of his show on Animal Planet called Treehouse Masters. Now he creates over 20 tree houses a year. They feature all the basics of a tiny home, such as a living area and a bedroom, and they even come with kitchen facilities as well. These tree houses, as far as childhood tree houses go, are extravagant. Pete builds them for people who want to relive their youth, or even for people who wish to rent them out to travelers online. No 2 tree houses are the same, and adults can let their imaginations. The Costa Rica Treehouse. Many people are beginning to take a long, hard look at themselves when it comes to sustainable living, but some people take that to the next level by even building homes that epitomize the practice of minimizing their carbon footprint. The rest of us are only just starting to separate recyclables from waste, so way to show us up, guys. Olson Kundig architects from the United States were tasked with building a 3-story home in Costa Rica that was basically going to be a treehouse and playhouse for American surfers who were all about sustainable living. It was built in the jungle near Playa Hermosa Beach and consisted of local teak wood, columns and walls from tree trunks, and locally harvested Cenizaro wood. Wooden screens let in daylight and air during the day, while glass windows encompassed the second floor. The goal with the build was to not only make use of local materials, but allow the home to remain open and breathe in the semi-tropical environment. The resultant build was astounding. It had an open-plan kitchen and dining area, a bedroom, bathroom, and storage area, and a unique rainwater collection system and solar power. Doesn't get much more sustainable or cracked open. A home that's light, bright, and spacious is something that many people want, but in most cases, if you want some light in your house, you better be prepared to install a dozen or so lamps. Most are not built with the indoor-outdoor flow in mind. A family in Amersham, England wanted a house that would rely on nature to provide lighting, and London architects Cullinan Studio delivered. Known as the push-pull house, it was split into sections in an intelligent way that still maintained its Art Deco styling. Glazed gaps promoted an open and bright interior, while the exterior of the home still looked like it was from the 1930s. That was so that it wouldn't stand out too much from the neighboring properties. The cross-laminated timber was split into 4 areas around the home's central space. It had rooms in each corner, bedrooms in each corner, and a ground level with a utility room and study. Stairs provide access to each level, and there was no need for artificial lighting during the day. Look out, world, the housing future looks bright. Literally. Simple tiny house. Many people that grow up with very little are determined to get a lot when they grow up. But for one Japanese man, it was quite the opposite. George Soyama, an architect, spent the early years of his life in a Japanese-American internment camp. As you can imagine, he lived with very little. Rather than dream about what he could have, he dreamed about the simplicity of housing and possessions. George and his family lived in a tar paper barracks in an Idaho camp called Minidoka. It consisted of long shed buildings with one window, a stove area, and a curtain between each family. Even after leaving the camp, he lived life similarly. George and his wife lived in a small fishing shack in Seattle before buying an adjacent narrow lot and going for that same simplistic approach. They built their home to be 18 feet wide and all of one color. It has a loft, stairs to a bedroom, and a simple kitchen, bathroom, and living area. From floor to ceiling, George's tiny home is a sleek and simplistic abode that draws on the positive points of living.